14 by Representative Sparks. Item number 14, House Bill 2322. Representative Sparks, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Basically, this bill is basically the Transparency in School Employee Salary Act, and appreciate if I can get a motion and a second.
We have a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll give a second for discussion's sake.
Okay, we have a motion second for discussion.
Yeah. Chairman, what this bill does is just simply add some transparency to salaries in our school system. One thing that I'm very proud of our school board is our salaries are one of the highest in the state for our teachers. Recently, about a month ago, I was visiting my mom in the nursing home, and my mom said she started complaining about teachers being paid so low. And I said, Mom, what teachers are you talking about? And she was saying, well, I heard they're paid like $24,000. I said, no, our teachers are some of the highest paid in the state in Rutherford County, which I'm very proud of. And, it seems like there's a misnomer out there that folks think that teachers are very low paid. And the Tennessee General Assembly, with the help of Chairman White, Chairman Brooks, and Representative Smith and others, have been able to raise those salaries. So this piece of legislation basically is just asking for transparency. We do it at the federal government. We do it at the state government. All our salaries, state salaries, are posted online. These aren't posted online when it comes to the school system. So basically, that's what this piece of legislation does.
Okay, with that explanation, we had a motion second for discussion. Did you just say that it's already posted online?
It's not. It's not. The state is. All of the state salaries are posted.
They're
online.
already posted,
Yes, sir.
but
Yes,
you want it online in this bill?
Yes, sir. That's what the state's online as well.
Okay, committee, anybody got questions? Chairman Brooks?
Can we go out of session? If you would, I'd like to ask some of the state employees about the issue of if it's posted by name or by brackets. Like there's 10 teachers or 10 employees at 72,000 and 8 at 44,000, or if I have, Harry Brooks at 44,000.
That's what the state is, yes, sir.
Okay, I'd like to go out of session and talk to some state employees.
Okay, with that objection, we're out of session. And do we have anyone? Chairman Brooks requested.
Let me ask Elizabeth, is the Department of Education total staff posted online, or is it available upon request?
State your name for the record.
Elizabeth Fivash with the Department of Education. I believe the Department of Human Resources keeps updated all of that information, but it's available online. So I'm not sure what the website is, but you can go onto a website and look up the salary of any state employee.
Any state employee. So it's a process to where I would go online and queue in the Department of Education and in some way go to another bracket and queue in a particular name, and it'll show up.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
it's
correct.
listed by name. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Chairman Brooks, anyone else that you want to recognize while we're out of session and stakeholder? Okay. Representative Turner, you're recognized.
The name of the persons would be indicated?
That's correct. So you can, again, I'm sorry, I can't remember the actual website address, but you can go on and you can enter the Department of Education and enter my name, and my salary will come up.
Anyone else want to ask a question of Ms. Fivash? So,
Transparent Tennessee is the website.
So, what I'm hearing, you can already do this with state employees.
But the salary of any teacher or administrator is subject to the Open Records Act, so anyone could request that information from a district right now for a teacher.
But it's not online or anywhere right now for teachers?
It is not unless the district, I do not know of any districts that have chosen to do that, but
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Ms. Five while we're at, Chairman Smith?
So I just went to the website real quick. When you do a search, you have to know the first and last name, their job title. You know, is it, you can just search randomly, or do you have to know the information of the person you're looking for? I'm sorry, I'm just now getting into it to figure out. So
I believe you can search by agency, that if you just enter in an agency, it will list all of the employees and their salaries.
So again, I'm walking through this as you all are talking. So I just did a quick search, and it does give their the agency name, their last name, first name, job title, compensation rate period, and whether full or part-time.
I know, can you believe it?
Okay, any other questions, Chairman Smith? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Without objection, we're now going back in session. Okay, Chairman Brooks, you're recognized.
On your legislation, Representative Sparks.
Yes, sir.
Rutherford County employs people with fire and police and highways and so on and so forth as well.
Yeah.
But you only want to post teachers, right, or education?
Well, that was
department?
just a start for a transparency effort. That's just starting
So
right here.
your task and your commitment is that you'll be coming back next year with a piece of legislation that would include all other
Oh, I'd be willing, yes,
Rutherford
sir.
County employees.
Yes, sir. I wish I had your help next year on it, but unfortunately, you won't be here to help me.
I could probably contract with you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Work something out.
But I just, I know many times in education, we have issues dealing with teachers, and as though there's a problem, and sometimes we highlight our teachers when I really don't know if we need to highlight them in the sense. And if we were here discussing every employee that the county or city government across this state does, but we started with educators, and now there's going to be an issue raised when this is reported. Is there a problem with educators? If there's a problem, it's because they're not paid enough. And I tend to agree with your grandmother, I think is the example.
Mother.
So, but I just don't want the public to think that because of this legislation, the Tennessee legislature says that there's some infamous issue out there because we're just only looking at teachers or educators. I presume you're dealing with every employee of the Department of Education in that county.
Counties, yes, sir.
In that county. So how much of this is, I know you're a major proponent of the salary issue with the superintendents.
Yep.
And that's a very, very
Well, I see
important
where
issue
Metro's
to you.
having a budget problem now, and they're going to have a budget problem, sadly. But it's been a big issue for me, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But I'm very
And
proud of
that's
our school
fine.
board for the pay, and I appreciate y'all's efforts for increasing that pay. And I just think that needs to be out there. It just seems like I know for me, it just seems like that's not touted enough. The good work that this body has done, and I think it needs to be out there. And I think full transparency is something that it's a bipartisan issue that we all should be for and be proud of what we're paying our teachers. I know Murfreesboro City has paid they're in the top probably 8% of the 140 systems. Is there, Chairman White, LEAs out there, and Rutherford County is one of the highest. I just think that needs to be out there, and I think this is an effort that would help in a bipartisan way.
Thank you, sir.
Representative White?
Can we ask if there's anyone from the Charter Schools Association that would like to testify, or as well, charter schools, since they were named in this bill?
We can, if that would be the will of the committee. And I'll recognize any other stakeholders. Anyone from the charter schools that would like to weigh in on this? You're part of your public school, so you're part of this also. Do I not see anybody in the charter schools? Just want to make sure. Okay, Representative Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was about to make the same request to see if a representative from the Tennessee Education Association would would like to say something in reference to that.
Any objection? Okay, without
Before we-
objection, we're out of session. And Mr. Wright, if you will, make sure the red light's on and state your name for the record.
Jim Wright, Tennessee Education Association. A couple of quick facts that we already do extensive surveys of salary schedules of all LEAs in the state, and we publish those. So if teachers want to make comparisons to where they are for either degree or year of service, that they can make comparisons right now. So the basic salaries about, and also we compile benefits, how much a teacher has to pay for partnership standard, limited, what the split is between the employer and the employee. So all of that information is out there, and it's important because you want teachers to have an understanding of what's going on in the next county or some other part of the state. The thing that when we started looking at this bill, and I will apologize, I haven't had a chance to talk to the sponsor of it, is the idea of publishing actual names. That it just starts to get into a place where, again, it's public records. If somebody wants to find out how much an individual is making at a school system, they can do an open records request, and you can find that. But the idea of publishing actual names and placing that, when we first started looking at that and started talking about it, getting those names out there and what they're making, sort of left some of our teachers with lumps in their throat, just didn't feel like they were being exposed in a manner that they had not been before. The other thing about this bill, that there are base salaries, but we also, as we were reading it too, and again, I look forward to talking with the sponsor, base salaries are not all compensation. That you have other supplements that go on, and it's a wide variety of things. If you are a band director, or you're a coach, or you're doing these other things, and that's also when we started thinking about how do we add total compensation and how that gets placed. I will say though that there is often questions about exactly if it's not published what those supplement schedules are. And we've had some questions from members about making sure that that also too gets published. But the main hiccup is this is a new idea about publishing the actual names of teachers that work in an LEA with their salary. And again, I haven't had a chance to talk with people at TSEA, but has there ever been an issue of now seeing the name and your salary? Is that an opportunity to try to search for that person, to try to market for other things? There's just some issues that we started to look at, but again, we understand the state employees. I have not had a chance to get with Paul or other folks at TSEA about how their members have dealt with it, and I haven't had a chance to talk with the sponsor about this particular bill yet.
Thank you. Any questions, Representative White?
Okay, you say TEA does a comparison. Do you do it for all counties in the state?
That's correct. So we publish on our website the salary schedules of all LEAs and also what they pay for insurance. And that could also be ancillary benefits like dental, or if it's offered by the counties, because we'd really like to have teachers be able to compare what the benefits are from this county to that, or if they're thinking about maybe moving to a state, starting to look at what those schedules are. And also it provides strong information for local boards to see, what are the Joneses doing? I think that's sometimes a very helpful thing about you don't want to be that far below the following county. And we compile this every year. It's a big undertaking for us, but it's important data to have.
So as a parent, can I log in to your, do I have to have a login, or can I just access
it's open.
your website?
It's open. You can just come to our website and it's
Okay.
open. You would have to know to find out what your teacher, let's say an individual teacher's making, is. Usually most salary schedules are done by years of experience, and then at times, depending on what the LEA decided, different kinds of degrees and placing in the lane. So if you wanted to find specifically, my child's teacher has been 8 years and she has a master's degree, you would be able to find out in Rutherford County what she makes, absent, maybe the other supplements or other things she's got. But you could also see what their costs are in insurance.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any other questions of our, okay, let me go to Representative Turner, then back to Chairman Smith. And did our sponsor have a question of our guest?
Well, yes, unless they have one first.
Okay, let's go to them. We'll come back. Representative Turner?
I have some concern about the publication of the teacher's name for security purposes as well, because there are crooks and those whose motives are not in our best interest, who are looking for an easy way to target certain groups, to solicit them. And then it's the privacy issue. I don't mind necessarily the method that has been shared with us by Mr. Rapp, where you have categories rather than names. And, you know, we live in a time now where you don't want folk almost to know what you make, because there may be undesirable consequences. It puts a highlight on that individual. So our sponsor would, I mean, that's all I have. to
Okay,
say.
thank you, Representative Turner. Any questions of Mr. Rye?
For Jim. Real quick, Jim, one of the common complaints you have with TA among teachers is the low pay, right? Is
Yeah,
pay.
and also health benefits have been,
Okay.
you know, I mean, you know, a lot of counties will do a 60-40 split or a 70-30 split.
How much influx of money has, since the Haslam administration has been here, how much influx of pay increases has there been for teachers?
Yeah, it's been a remarkable stretch of the last 3 years.
Pretty good
I don't
stretch.
have it, but it's hundreds of millions of dollars have been
Yes.
invested in the BEP instructional component.
Yeah.
It's been a
1.4.
remarkable stretch.
It has. And that's what my efforts are here today, is to try to share those remarkable accomplishments from the Haslam administration, as well as these chairmen right here, for, again, full transparency.
Thank you. Anyone else to Mr. Rye? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Chairman Smith, you wanted to ask
Well,
some questions?
while we're still out of session, I mean, I'd love to hear before, let me go back to Representative Turner before I do my next
You
question.
recognize Ms. Turner?
Sorry. How do you think the teachers would feel about the publication of their name?
Well, in looking at this bill and just working with the teachers that are in our leadership, there was a lot of hesitation about publishing names. It did get, it just, you know, it's a totally new concept. We've always felt, though, that if there was an issue of, let's say, you know, somebody considered a coach getting an extra deal, you could always do a Open Records Act, and you can find out what that individual teacher is making, along with supplements and anything else that may. But publishing them all there for people to sort of, I don't know, the names out there were the real concerns.
Thank you.
Chairman Smith?
And this isn't for Jim Ryan, but I'd love to just get Toss up here, just finish out the alphabet soup, and let's go ahead and go with TSBA, just because I want to hear from all the stakeholders that are involved, because with doing something of this nature, I think it's just worth hearing from
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
everybody.
Thank you. Would toss Mr. Lynch, anyone else, TSBA in the room? If you are, just come on up. We'd be glad to get your input.
So can we toss to toss?
Toss to toss. we now toss this to you. Mr. Lynch, if you would, state your name for the record.
Dale Lynch, Executive Director with Tennessee Organization of School Superintendents.
Thank you. Chairman Smith, you have a specific question?
No, I mean, you've heard the question so far. I mean, I just love to hear your thoughts on just kind of where we are with the posture of the bill. You know, as a former superintendent now with the Tennessee Organization of School Superintendents, just kind of give us your thoughts from, you know, educators and stuff that you would have had back home.
I think for sure that I want to commend this group for your work in improving teacher salaries over the number of years. I think we've done a tremendous job of elevating the position of a teacher. But I also would ask you to carefully consider this, because I do not think that teachers would think this would be a good idea. As a principal or as a leader of a school, looking at 2 kindergarten classroom teachers, of having their name on the front page of a local paper with their salaries, I think would be a mistake. I think when you're trying to build culture of a school, this would not be the way that I would recommend that you do that. I think that our teachers are continuing to work hard every single day, and I would not think that they would think this was a supportive act by the legislature.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Lynch? If not, we'll go to TSBA. You want to weigh in? State your name for the record.
Ben Torres, Director of Government Relations for the Tennessee School Board Association. Just looking at the bill, this information is available through a public records request, has to be produced within 7 days. I get the sponsors' intent of putting it up on the website, making it available, but it is public record and available to anyone who asks.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Torres. Representative Turner, you recognize?
But what he said is a lot different. I mean, that person has to go through a third process. This method seems to be making it easy
Yes, ma'am.
for thieves or scammers or those kinds of folk to get this information. But I don't have any problems with the last gentleman's remarks, but I do have some concerns, and I guess I've verbalized them already. The gentleman from Taos, I agree wholeheartedly with his analysis and his comments that this is a private issue, and I am sure that teachers would not be feel comfortable, and they would having their names, the categories, as I've said earlier. I don't mind putting the categories. I can learn a lot from that. But the names, I think that's an invasion of their privacy. And really it puts them at risk even more than invading their privacy, because it makes them in a position where they have no control over somebody else finding out information, personal information about them, that if they were legitimate and had a legitimate purpose, they could go through the normal procedure that we have now.
Okay, now we're still out of session. Do we have any other comments while we're out of session of our guest? If not, I'm going to go back. I'll go back. You want?
I had a question for the guest real quick, if he could come back up. If
Okay,
Ben
which
or
for TSBA,
Todd could come
Mr. Torres or Mr. Lynch?
up. Well, both of them.
Okay, if y'all would mind coming back up. We have one more question of you from the sponsor of the bill. And Reverend Sparks, you're recognized.
Yeah, well, this is an important issue, first of all, to the taxpayers. Going back to Representative Turner's comments, your information, Ms. Turner, is online right now. The taxpayer can go up and pull up state employees. I can see Bonnie Wood's salary. I can see Harry Brooks' salary. I can see Paul Marsh's salary. It's on there now. So if there's a problem with it now, the state's in a huge error right now. I want to ask these two gentlemen, who basically pays your salaries, for the record?
You recognize. State your name again for our video streaming.
Dale Lynch, Executive Director. As a retired superintendent, I received my salary at that time from the Hamilton County Department of Education. Now,
Okay.
as Executive Director,
Okay.
it's with Tennessee Organization of School Superintendents.
Okay. Ben?
Ben Torres, Tennessee School Board Association. The association.
Yeah.
I'm an employee of the association.
Yes, sir. With all due respect, you're paid for by the taxpayers, for the record, right? Taxpayers are funding your salaries. Correct?
Dale Lynch, Executive Director. That is part of it.
Okay, but
Through
bottom
membership.
line is the taxpayers are paying your salary. And this is what this effort is here, is to full transparency on the salaries that the taxpayers are paying. So when my county, when I always hear teachers aren't paid high enough and we're giving more, out of full transparency, shouldn't we brag on that? Shouldn't that be, we shouldn't have to go through open records. A grandmother doesn't know that. A single mother doesn't know those things. Yeah,
Now,
I was just
that's a
asking question.
comment. You're making a comment.
Well, I just was asking a question that should be public record. That should be easy access to that mother, to that grandmother, to that parent of those children that's in that school system.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. Yes, Mr. Lynch.
Dale
Correct.
Lynch, Executive Director. The only thing I certainly don't want to argue this issue.
Well, it's not arguing;
But
it's just stating.
Okay,
But
let,
what I-
let him answer.
But what I would simply say, that my 30 years in public education, as a teacher, as an administrator, or superintendent, teachers are not elected officials. Teachers are servants in the classroom, and it is very different. And we, as a TOS organization, we want to continue to do everything I know that you want to do legislatively to support those teachers in the classroom.
Thank you very much. Any other questions of our guest, Chairman Smith, and then we'll go back into committee.
And Dale, when you were at the superintendent, any funds that you all appropriated for TOS or for TSB, that was included in your all's budget, which is a public record that the taxpayers can see as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we know already through the transparent methods how much money you all are receiving from each LEA already.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions of our guest? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. We're now back in committee, and we are on House Bill 2472. If I could recognize Representative White, then I have a comment, and then recognize anybody else.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill says all employees. So you're talking about the assistant that the attendance office, the cafeteria workers,
exactly.
if you have a bus driver in your that the county owns the buses, you're talking about
Yes.
every employee. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
Just
you.
like it is on the state website.
Chairman Smith, you go ahead.
Well, here's what I'd like to do, and this is just where I am. I'm at the will of, obviously what my colleagues would like to do. I'd love to just hold this and go home and talk to my people, because this is significant policy that we, are going to be acting.
I'm willing to roll the bill a week if.
Well, I mean, we could offer.
We'll get the will of the committee on this.
But I'd love to know what my locals back home think. I mean, teachers all the way on. But then I'd also like to hear from my school system. How long would it take them to implement this? Because this says, effect July 1st. Can they get everything done? That's also in the process of them hiring new teachers, trying to get all their payroll, everything ready for the next fall. That's right in the middle of all that happening. So I just want to make sure we're not causing them problem, and that they have appropriate time to enact that. So I'd love to just.
Yeah, I'm open to that.
Okay, well, we get the will of the committee. I would like to make one comment as far as where I'm coming down on this right now. And I appreciate the transparency in school part. We all get that. But from the testimony of those, this information can be found out if you truly need it. The Tennessean wants to know, or any other interested party, you can find that out. I'm a little concerned that you put it on an online publication. And there are other issues, such as in some school districts, it's very hard to find an English 3, a physics, or a chemistry teacher. And sometimes the superintendent or the principal has to pay a little bit more money for those. And by putting this online, where it's so easily out there that could be misconstrued, I think we would be setting ourselves up for some issues, for some problems that we don't necessarily need to have. So my position would be that the transparency is already there. Don't really need this. So that's where I'm coming down on this bill. So the will of the committee, whatever you would like to do from there. Chairman Smith.
So just so the sponsor doesn't have to burn, if everybody is agreeable, I'd make a motion that we roll this 1 week as a committee, just so we have a chance to hear from our people back home.
Committee, would you like to weigh in into that? Did you do that in the form of a motion?
Sure, I move that.
Okay. Committee, let's weigh in on that. Representative Turner? Okay, I'm not asking, we're not voting on you. Would you like to weigh in on what the motion, a discussion on the motion that he just made, Representative Smith?
The motion to hold it here for a week and go home and be able to discuss this with our locals.
We're getting the will of the committee right now.
Or do you want to vote?
I don't really think it's not going to change my mind. Because I have a feel for, having been in the teaching profession for a number of years, I don't think it's going to, the fact that the names are going to be published turns me against, and I applaud Representative Sparks for being concerned about the transparency, but I think the other risk involved far outweighs that I mentioned. So I would, rolling it for a week would not change my mind.
Representative Berry? Anything on your end?
Well, I too feel as though I know what my colleague and friend is doing, and I know his heart is right. on trying to make sure that everybody's treated fairly, and paid with equity. My concern would be, and I guess he and I will get a chance to talk about it, so therefore I will be fine with a week roll, because I think that considering the current environment and what we see happening every day with information, that, you know, there's no such thing as privacy. And I think that there are just some considerations have to be made in lieu of what's happening in the country today, as well as taking into consideration what his concerns are. So I'll be fine with a roll.
Representative White?
A roll is fine with me, yes.
Chairman Smith, I assume that your roll's okay with you. Chairman Brooks?
I don't think it would change my position about what I'll wind up voting on.
Thank you. And my position I would vote on it today, because my position is not going to change. But that is, so let me, we got the motion before us. We'll take the vote of the committee. I would like to have a roll call on this. If y'all do, does the committee mind if we have or you just rather take a voice?
I mean, if it's the will of the committee, I mean, I'm sensing there's 3 rolls, let's vote on it today. So I say there's no sense in doing that just based on the comments just now. Let's just go ahead and either vote or defer to what the sponsor would like to do.
Okay.
Well, I'd like the bill to pass, to be honest with you. That's what I'd like. But, you know, but this is, I don't want to put you on in a hard place or anything, but, you know, this is a simple bill. It's just asking for transparency. We've done great things up here. Chairman Brooks, you've done great effort. You're going to be retiring. This is basically just touting the accomplishments of the state of Tennessee with salary increases, and it's disappointing with TA and these others, TOS and Tennessee School Board Association, that are going to oppose this, because we should be letting teachers know, you know, and let the public know how much of a pay increase they've had, not censor it, and that's what we're doing by not putting this information out there. With all due respect to some of the comments that have been made, your information's already out there. Salaries are there, not your Social Security number, but the salaries are out there. And I think that's what the taxpayers would want. At the end of the day, that's who we're held accountable to, is the voters and the taxpayers. Those teachers are also taxpayers. I would argue that some of these teachers will be for this bill. Appreciate Representative Smith, Chairman Smith's efforts on this bill. I guess I'll take this bill off notice, and I'll just come back next year with a bright new legislature and just try it again.
Okay, if that's your will, because I think, Judge, for the committee, we're at 3 and 3. So
yes, sir. Okay.
So is it my understanding you'd like to take the bill off notice?
I'll just take it off notice and come back next year.
Okay, without
I'm here.
objection,
Thank you.
House Bill 2472 is off notice.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.